Negative thoughts can feel like a relentless tide, eroding our peace and skewing our view of the world. Yet Stoicism teaches that while we cannot always prevent these thoughts from arising, we can transform our relationship with them. By cultivating clarity, self-discipline, and rational detachment, we learn to reshape our inner landscape, ensuring negativity doesn't hijack our well-being. Below are 10 Stoic lessons to help you stop negative thinking and reclaim a sense of calm. If you find this content helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Together, we can keep applying time-tested wisdom for everyday resilience. 1. Recognize your mind's power to interpret events. A core Stoic insight is that events themselves rarely dictate our emotions. It's our interpretation that triggers negativity. You might lose a promotion or get a harsh comment from a friend, factual occurrences. But the conclusion, "I'm a failure," or "they must hate me," is your mind's spin on reality. By learning to question the stories you attach to difficult moments, you halt the snowballing of negative thoughts. Consider an example. You propose an idea at work and it's dismissed. Your immediate reaction might be, "I'm worthless. My ideas are always bad." Stoicism challenges this leap. Marcus Aurelius would have you ask, "What really happened?" The team said no to your idea. That doesn't equate to them saying no to your entire worth. Realizing this difference shrinks negativity's hold. The fact is neutral. Your self-damning interpretation is optional. One practical method is to pause each time you feel negativity surge and identify the exact thought fueling it. Perhaps, "Everyone thinks I'm incompetent." Then question it. Is that accurate, or am I overgeneralizing? This approach fosters a balanced outlook. Instead of letting one setback define your identity, you see it as a single event in a broader context of your capabilities. Over time, by catching distorted thoughts and reframing them, you develop an inner calm. You realize negativity often thrives on assumptions or exaggerations. Even if the situation is truly disappointing, like a breakup or a financial crunch, labeling yourself as hopeless only deepens your distress. The Stoic approach is to focus on constructive next steps and self-improvement rather than stewing in condemnation. Moreover, limiting negative interpretations also relates to how we see other people's behaviors. A friend's short reply in a text might trigger self-doubt. "They're ignoring me because they don't value me." Instead, Stoicism reminds us we can't control another's mood or circumstances. Maybe they're just busy or tired. Letting go of bleak interpretations reduces the mental load of needless worry. In essence, you stop negative thinking at its source by consciously evaluating your mental narratives. You begin to see challenges and setbacks for what they are, painful but not necessarily catastrophic. This Stoic practice of detaching from harmful storylines liberates you to address problems proactively, informed by reason rather than paralyzed by despair. Over time, you'll find that negative thoughts emerge less frequently, and when they do, they dissipate faster, leaving room for solutions and serenity. 2. Practice mindful observation of your inner dialogue. Negativity often creeps into our minds unnoticed, turning into a monologue of self-criticism or fear before we realize it. Stoicism advises mindful observation as a remedy, steadily watching your inner dialogue as though you're a neutral witness. By recognizing negative thoughts early, you can gently redirect them rather than being swept away. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. Tension builds. This always happens. People are inconsiderate. The anger escalates. A Stoic approach introduces a mental checkpoint. Notice the thought, "This always happens." Then question, is that literally true or just frustration? This subtle pause breaks the negativity cycle. You might still wish traffic were better, but you don't spiral into full-blown rage. Epictetus likened the mind to a stage upon which thoughts appear. You're the audience, deciding which actors deserve an encore. Some negative thoughts may cameo briefly, self-doubt, resentment, but you don't have to grant them star roles. Mindful observation means letting them come, acknowledging them, and letting them pass. Over time, you cultivate a mental space that naturally repels negativity, A straightforward technique is to do small thought scans throughout the day. Every few hours, pause and ask, what's on my mind right now? Label any emerging negativity without judgment: anxiety about tomorrow's meeting, annoyance at an earlier conversation. Just naming these states impedes them from sinking deeper into your subconscious. You become the observer, not the puppet of these emotions. In addition, mindful observation aligns with self-compassion. Stoics are sometimes misconstrued as harsh, but in reality, they champion rational kindness to ourselves. If you catch a negative spiral, "I messed up again," "I'm useless," you answer gently, "I'm noticing negative self-talk." Then pivot to a balanced statement. "I did make a mistake, but I'm learning from it." This mental pivot breaks the cycle of pure negativity, offering self-forgiveness while still upholding accountability. Furthermore, consistent observation helps identify triggers. If negativity arises whenever you scroll social media or talk to a certain person, that's a clue to limit those exposures or approach them differently. Observing your mind reveals patterns. You may see that negativity spikes each night when you're tired or each morning before coffee. Such awareness allows strategic interventions, maybe reading positive material at night or adopting a more constructive morning routine. Ultimately, mindful observation is about re-establishing ownership of your mental stage. Negative thoughts will still appear, but you learn not to feed them with more lines. Instead, you watch calmly and refocus on what truly matters, a stoic lens that fosters tranquility. Bit by bit, negativity recedes, replaced by a steadier, self-directed mindset. That shift, though subtle, is monumental in forging happiness and resilience under any strain. 3. Use cognitive reframing to redirect negative perceptions. Often, negative thinking thrives on warped or catastrophic perceptions. Stoicism encourages cognitive reframing, the intentional practice of revisiting a situation's interpretation from a more balanced angle. It doesn't deny real problems, but it refuses to let them define everything. This technique turns what initially feels like a severe crisis into a manageable challenge or even a growth opportunity. Consider you're finishing a work project and a significant error emerges. Your mind might label it as a disaster. "I'm going to lose my job. My career is doomed." Reframing isn't pretending the error is trivial. Instead, it's telling yourself, "Yes, this is a real hurdle, but let me see what I can fix or how I might learn from it for future tasks." The shift from catastrophe to challenge drains panic, enabling you to handle solutions rationally. Marcus Aurelius advised that any external trouble can be recast as raw material for virtue. If you face conflict with a neighbor, reframe it as a test of diplomacy rather than personal assault. If you endure a bout of ill health, you see it as an invitation to practice patience, self-compassion, or lifestyle adjustments. This pivot doesn't eliminate stress, but transforms how you relate to it, preventing negativity from dominating your mindset. A straightforward method is the "what else could this mean?" question. If your friend cancels plans last minute, the default negative script might be "they don't value me." But you can stop and ask, what else might be happening? Perhaps they had an emergency or are just overwhelmed. This broader vantage reduces personalizing the event. Even if they do lack courtesy, your flexible thinking spares you unnecessary gloom while focusing on realistic responses like calmly addressing it next time. Stoic reframing also shines in daily annoyances. If you come home to find a small household mishap, a broken appliance, or messy living room, you could spiral. Nothing ever goes right. Reframing sees the situation as inconvenient but fixable, maybe an incentive to practice resourcefulness. By minimizing overly dramatic phrases like always or never, you anchor yourself in a more grounded view. Additionally, reframing is potent in interpersonal misunderstandings. Suppose your colleague's email seems curt. You initially assume they're angry. Reframing questions that assumption. Could they be under time pressure or just have a concise style? Before letting negativity fester, you clarify or empathize with their context. Even if they were truly terse, Your ability to see multiple possibilities prevents fueling resentment. Over time, these small acts of reinterpretation build mental agility. You create a habit of scanning for reasonable explanations and constructive angles, rather than feeding negative narratives. This practice fosters a sense of calm control, realizing you hold the power to interpret adversity in ways that maintain your equilibrium. Such emotional resilience, championed by Stoic tradition, ensures negativity doesn't overshadow your life, but rather becomes a stepping stone for deeper clarity and well-being. 4. Implement a negativity detox by limiting toxic inputs. Negative thinking isn't just born from personal experience. It's amplified by our environment, news cycles, social media rants, or constant exposure to pessimistic individuals. Stoicism doesn't advise naively ignoring reality, but it does emphasize filtering out unnecessary negativity. By curating your inputs, you safeguard mental space and reduce the raw material that feeds anxious or bitter thoughts. Picture your day. You start with alarmist news alerts, scroll a barrage of heated social media debates, then talk to a friend who always complains about life. It's no wonder negativity seeps into your outlook. The Stoic approach is to practice discernment. Epictetus would say, "We are what we read and hear," urging you to choose carefully. Maybe reduce doom scrolling, limiting news checks to set times, or follow accounts that offer balanced, constructive insights rather than endless rage bait. This intentional consumption fosters clarity over cynicism. Similarly, examine your social circle. If certain acquaintances exclusively discuss their grudges or worst fears, you can set boundaries, politely steering conversations to solutions or positivity, or minimize time spent with them if they refuse to shift from negative loops. Stoicism champions compassion, not isolation. You remain empathetic, but you also protect your mental well-being. Extended exposure to negativity can overshadow your Stoic calm, so restricting it isn't selfish, it's strategic self-care. Moreover, consider entertainment. Repeatedly watching or listening to content saturated with gloom or aggression can color your mindset. There's a Stoic argument for picking media that either enriches your understanding, lifts your spirits, or at least keeps negativity in perspective. This doesn't mean never engaging with heavy topics. Knowledge is important, but ensuring balance. If you're binging on crime documentaries until 2 a.m., it's not surprising you awaken anxious about your surroundings. You might also do a negativity detox challenge. For a set period, say, a week, track how many negative inputs you allow daily. News articles, gossip sessions, or social media sprees that drain your optimism. Then systematically reduce them. Replace half your news checks with reading a book or taking a walk. If you sense certain social media accounts consistently spike your stress, unfollow or mute them. The immediate calm you feel often reveals how heavily negativity was weighing you down. This approach complements the Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control. You can't banish negativity from the world, but you can regulate how much of it seeps into your day. Freed from an overload of dire predictions or petty conflicts, your mind retains more space for creativity, gratitude, and rational reflection. Over time, you realize that negativity, like junk food, can be addictive yet ultimately toxic. By limiting it, you reset your mental diet and discover that life's challenges, while real, needn't drown you in gloom. In short, a negativity detox is a powerful Stoic technique to starve negative thinking at its source. Coupled with mindful living and moral development, this strategy helps you sustain a balanced inner climate, even when society seems fixated on the bad. You become less anxious, less reactionary, and more open to positivity, because you aren't constantly saturating your mind with alarm and complaint. 5. Accept impermanence to alleviate persistent worry. A crucial Stoic teaching is that everything changes: our fortune, our health, our relationships. Though this recognition can initially provoke fear, it's also liberating. Embracing impermanence allows you to realize that negative states, like everything else, are temporary. By not clinging to how things should be forever, You detach from a major source of persistent worry and negativity. Imagine you're anxious about losing a current comfort, a job, a home, or a certain lifestyle. You keep thinking, what if this disappears? Over time, the dread of potential change can overshadow daily contentment. But Stoic logic says, it's a fact that all external conditions shift eventually. Denying this reality only intensifies fear. By acknowledging impermanence, you prepare mentally. Yes, my position might end one day, but I can adapt or find another path. Meanwhile, I'll appreciate it while it lasts. This attitude also calms negativity around transitions. If a relationship ends, you might plunge into grief and anger. A Stoic viewpoint doesn't belittle your sadness, but reminds you that all bonds evolve or dissolve in time. This is a natural law, not a personal tragedy singled out for you. Marcus Aurelius wrote about how understanding the cyclical nature of life fosters equanimity. You grieve, but you also trust that life continues. New opportunities or affections may emerge, and you hold on to neither illusions nor bitterness. Stoic acceptance of impermanence further mitigates negative thinking by revealing that today's problems won't necessarily remain forever. If you're in a tough financial spot, your entire future isn't doomed. Circumstances can improve, or you can shift your approach. The knowledge that adversity, too, has an expiration date can embolden you to endure it with more serenity. Conversely, if you're riding a success wave, Stoic awareness of impermanence keeps you humble, preventing arrogance and meltdown should fortune shift. A practical way to cultivate acceptance is a brief morning reflection. Everything in my life is subject to change. Let me appreciate what I have and prepare mentally for possible shifts. This exercise, borrowed from Stoic premeditation, doesn't aim to make you anxious but to strengthen your adaptability. You embrace each day's gifts without expecting them to freeze in time. Such readiness dissolves the negativity that arises from denial, like clinging to a role or comfort out of fear it might vanish. Embracing impermanence also fosters gratitude and presence. When you recognize your child will grow, your job title may evolve, your routines will shift, you become more mindful of the here and now. You savor moments instead of letting them slip by unappreciated. This savoring counters the mind's negativity bias, helping you store positive experiences that buffer you when challenging episodes come. Ultimately, Stoic acceptance of impermanence dismantles illusions that feed negative thinking. Rather than resisting life's flux, you surf its waves, confident that no wave, be it triumph or trial, lasts indefinitely. Freed from the longing for permanence, you live with greater joy and less fear, aligned with the Stoic ideal of calm perseverance in a world of constant transformation. 6. Replace envy with admiration. Negative thinking frequently arises when we compare ourselves to others and feel lacking. Envy is a potent engine of self-doubt, bitterness, and regret. Stoicism offers a healthier alternative. Replace envy with genuine admiration for someone else's achievements, skill, or fortune. This shift not only dissolves negativity, but also promotes a sense of shared human potential and fosters personal growth. Imagine seeing a colleague excel. They receive an award, secure a promotion, or display a remarkable talent. The envy reflex might whisper, "Why can't that be me? Life's unfair." The Stoic approach counters, "What can I learn from their success? How might I apply their work ethic or methods to my own path?" This perspective changes your mindset from resentment to curiosity and motivation. Epictetus often taught that observing another's virtue or competence should inspire us to refine our own, not brood over perceived inferiority. One practical exercise is mindful redirection whenever you notice envy. Let's say you read about someone accomplishing a fitness milestone or publishing a book. Instead of sinking into negative self-talk, "I'll never do that. I'm falling behind," replace it with a sincere mental note. "That's impressive. I congratulate them silently and consider what small step I can take in my own goals." By celebrating their success, you free yourself from envy's grip and open space for personal aspiration. Over time, This habit fosters a sense of community rather than rivalry. Stoicism also points out the futility of envy. Marcus Aurelius reasoned that each person's path is different. If you truly want what they have, are you also willing to adopt all their struggles and responsibilities? People's outward successes often cloak unseen hardships. Admiration acknowledges the achievement without ignoring the complexity of each person's journey. When you envy them, you're fixated on a single dimension of their life. But sincere admiration is broader. It recognizes their skill or fortune while maintaining perspective that your life is your own to shape. Moreover, by fueling admiration over envy, you neutralize negativity in your social interactions. Instead of subtle digs or coldness towards someone who's thriving, you offer genuine compliments or curiosity. How did you develop that skill? Or what did you find most challenging? This fosters positive bonds. If the person is gracious, they might share tips or insights, so your stance of admiration yields mutual growth. Even if they're not particularly generous, you remain untainted by bitterness, preserving your mental harmony. Over time, you come to see that envy and admiration can never coexist in the same mental space. Choosing admiration helps you maintain stoic composure and glean insights from those who excel. Negativity diminishes, replaced by an outlook that sees others' successes as proof of what's possible, not as threats. This vantage frees you from the mental prison of comparison and resentment, leading to a more uplifting environment where positivity, rather than envy, shapes your relationships and self-esteem. 7. Maintain balanced speech to counteract negative scripts. Constant complaining, venting, or catastrophizing through speech often cements negative thinking into your psyche. Stoics recommend balanced, measured speech to avoid reinforcing gloomy narratives. By articulating difficulties calmly and focusing on potential solutions rather than dramatizing problems, you keep negativity at bay and preserve mental composure. Imagine a minor issue at home. The dishwasher breaks. You could exclaim, "Nothing ever works in this house. It's always a nightmare." This rhetoric locks you into a negative loop. In contrast, a stoic lens suggests you calmly note, "The dishwasher is broken. Let's see how we can fix or replace it." That subtle difference in expression, factual versus exaggerated, shapes your emotional response. The situation remains inconvenient, but you're not fueling it with destructive language. Seneca extolled controlling the tongue as critical to controlling the mind. If you consistently label challenges with extreme terms like awful, disastrous, or unbearable, you teach your brain to treat them as catastrophic. Over time, smaller hurdles trigger an outsized sense of frustration. Instead, practicing balanced speech, "This is challenging," "This is unexpected," "This needs attention," helps you remain proportionate in your emotions. Another angle is how you discuss your day or your struggles with friends. If your default is to unload woes with hyperbolic negativity, you inadvertently keep those narratives alive. Stoicism doesn't silence legitimate concerns, but it does suggest a solution-oriented approach. Articulate the issue concisely, outline the steps you're taking to handle it, and then let the conversation move on. Dwelling repeatedly on the same complaint cements negativity and can strain relationships. Balanced speech fosters a sense of accountability and direction, leaving less room for aimless complaining. Similarly, watch out for how you interpret good events through negative filters. Suppose you get a partial raise. Avoid overshadowing it by complaining it's not enough or too late. A Stoic viewpoint recognizes the raise as partial progress. While not ignoring that further improvements might be needed, you keep negativity in check. By tempering your words, you guard your mental environment from cynicism. A practical tip is to catch yourself whenever you utter always, never, or worst. Rephrase them to more precise language, recently, rarely, quite difficult. This rhetorical discipline, though subtle, reprograms your mind away from extremes. Over time, you form a speech pattern that is both realistic and more conducive to problem-solving rather than lamentation. This Stoic approach to speech doesn't promote artificial optimism or ignoring real concerns. Rather, It aims to reduce the needless emotional baggage that hyperbolic or repetitive complaining adds to those concerns. By adopting measured language, you cultivate a mental climate less prone to gloom, transforming your words into tools of clarity instead of negativity. People around you may also sense your calmness and rationality, leading to more constructive responses to problems. Ultimately, balanced speech proves a simple yet powerful method to curb negative thinking, ensuring that difficulties are handled sensibly rather than magnified into overshadowing gloom. 8. Strengthen emotional boundaries to shield your mind. When negative thinking creeps in, it often rides on external triggers, a friend's pessimistic rant, nonstop media gloom, or an acquaintance's drama. Stoicism advises strengthening emotional boundaries so external negativity doesn't invade your mental domain. This doesn't mean building walls of indifference, but establishing selective openness, deciding how much negativity you'll allow and how you'll respond, thus preserving your inner equilibrium. Picture a friend who constantly complains or stirs conflict. You might feel guilty ignoring them or refusing to engage, but Stoic wisdom suggests self-protection is necessary. If every conversation sours your mood and fosters negative loops, you have the right to limit contact or kindly shift topics. A polite statement like, "I respect your feelings, but can we talk about potential solutions or a lighter subject?" stops the negativity from embedding in your psyche. Over time, you'll notice a calmer mindset because you're not absorbing constant gloom by default. Similarly, emotional boundaries apply to media consumption. If you doom scroll through upsetting news, you train your mind to dwell on catastrophes. Stoics would remind you that you control what you read or watch. Limiting daily exposure to certain news topics or avoiding sensational outlets can drastically cut negative triggers. Substituting that time with reading about solutions, philosophy, or personal development fosters mental buoyancy instead of despair. The principle is not ignorance, but moderation, knowing how much negativity you can handle without sacrificing mental health. Boundaries also help in personal relationships with a partner or family who might radiate negativity. Imagine your spouse is frequently negative about finances or household chores. Stoicism suggests empathizing with their concerns, but also setting a boundary. "I hear you. Let's plan a problem-solving approach instead of venting every evening." By steering the conversation toward constructive action or reminding them you can't handle incessant negativity, you create a more uplifting home environment. This approach can gently nudge them towards a more solution-focused mindset. One beneficial practice is deciding in advance how you'll handle negativity. For instance, if your coworker often corners you to gripe about management, prepare an exit script. "I see you're frustrated. I've got a deadline now. Maybe we can discuss solutions later." With repetition, you become adept at graceful self-preservation. People realize your availability for negativity is limited, so they adapt or direct their complaints elsewhere. Ultimately, Stoic emotional boundaries are about respecting both your well-being and others' dignity. You're not dismissing their feelings, but clarifying you can't let their negativity weigh you down. Over time, these boundaries improve relationships, not ruin them. Genuine interactions become more balanced, while repeated toxic patterns either transform or fade away. By reinforcing your mental space, you starve negative thinking of external fuel. When adversity does strike, your Stoic mind is less cluttered by external gloom, free to address challenges with composure. You become the guardian of your mental gates, letting in reasoned dialogue and constructive energy while closing the door to persistent negativity that erodes happiness. 9. Shift from self-criticism to compassionate self-improvement. A flood of negative thoughts often originates internally from harsh self-judgment about perceived failures or flaws. Stoicism champions compassionate self-improvement over self-criticism, reminding us that while accountability matters, relentless condemnation traps us in negativity. By learning to treat mistakes as opportunities for growth rather than reasons for despair, you steadily dismantle negative thinking patterns. Imagine you miss an important work deadline. The self-critical tape might screech, "I'm incompetent. I'll never succeed." Stoic wisdom, however, suggests analyzing calmly. Yes, I missed the deadline. Which factors caused it? How can I prevent it next time? You address the error rationally, focusing on solutions like better time management, while refusing to define your entire identity by one slip-up. Epictetus taught that setbacks are educational moments, not moral failings. Such compassionate self-improvement also helps you cope with life's bigger disappointments, whether heartbreak, job loss, or personal misjudgments. Rather than punishing yourself endlessly, I always choose the wrong partner. You might see patterns. Did you ignore early red flags? Did you struggle with honest communication? That stoic reflection paves the way for future behavior changes, fueling hope instead of shame. Over time, repeated instances of problem-solving overshadow negativity's voice. One method for cultivating self-compassion is the self-question. If a close friend were in this situation, how would I advise them? Likely you'd offer encouragement, a path forward, and a reminder that mistakes happen. Apply that same supportive logic inward. This shift from blame to empathy counters negative self-talk, ensuring you remain constructive. It resonates with the Stoic principle of rational kindness, recognizing your capacity to err, but also your capacity to learn. Additionally, journaling can reinforce this approach. Each time you feel consumed by self-criticism, write down the event and your negative thought. Then, calmly dissect it. What's the root cause? What lesson can I glean? Conclude with a small action plan, maybe scheduling tasks more carefully or seeking guidance. This process reframes a moment of perceived failure as a strategic checkpoint for improvement. Stoicism doesn't ignore genuine responsibility. If you've hurt someone or neglected duties, you must rectify it. But you do so without indulging in unproductive guilt. You apologize or make amends, adjusting your behavior in line with Stoic virtue. Continually dwelling on regret or self-contempt, however, cripples the clarity needed to grow. By balancing accountability with self-forgiveness, you maintain positivity and moral direction, unburdened by paralyzing shame. In short, moving from harsh self-criticism to Stoic self-improvement frees your mind from perpetual negativity about your flaws. You treat mistakes not as identity-defining fiascos, but as stepping stones. That perspective fosters a stable sense of worth that remains unshaken by short-term setbacks. Over time, negativity struggles to take root in a mind that sees each day's challenges as impetus for forging a better self, forging a resilient contentment that endures all manner of trials. 10. Ground yourself in a purpose larger than your worries. Finally, Stoicism insists that cultivating a purpose broader than your immediate concerns is a powerful antidote to negative thinking. When life's difficulties loom, your sense of meaning can keep negativity from dominating. By aligning your day-to-day actions with a higher cause, whether moral growth, community service, artistic creation, or personal development, you maintain perspective that transcends fleeting setbacks. Consider someone deeply devoted to mentoring younger colleagues or volunteering for an environmental cause. Even if they face stress, delayed success, financial strain, personal misunderstandings, the overarching mission remains intact. Their mind can't spiral too far into negativity when they recall their aim. I'm here to help build a better tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the common good as an anchor, reminding himself that ephemeral troubles didn't negate the universal duty to act nobly. This purposeful stance reorients your mental energy from, "Why is this happening to me?" to "How can I keep contributing?" For example, if you endure a painful rejection, like your business proposal being shot down, you might be initially discouraged. But if your overarching mission is to create solutions in your industry, you redirect focus on refining your ideas or seeking alternative routes. Instead of succumbing to a negative, "I'm worthless" loop, you lean on your larger sense of mission to remain motivated and resilient. Moreover, purpose fosters gratitude for incremental progress. A Stoic with a cause doesn't measure worth by daily highs or lows. Even if you're not seeing huge wins, you appreciate each small step advancing your objective. This attitude disarms negativity's typical infiltration, the narrative of "I've done nothing of real value." When you see each action as part of a bigger puzzle, stagnation or short-term defeat feels less absolute. Practically, define a clear why that resonates with Stoic ideals: courage, justice, or wisdom. Maybe you commit to writing a book that enlightens readers, or you strive to volunteer with the underprivileged monthly, or you vow to exemplify fairness in your company's practices. Writing this mission down cements it. Each morning or night, revisit it briefly, so fleeting troubles take a back seat to your guiding star. In relationships, having a purpose helps you endure conflicts or misunderstandings with less negativity. You see the big picture of nurturing a harmonious family or forging meaningful connections, so a single argument doesn't overshadow that entire vision. The conflict becomes an issue to resolve, not a reason to despair, because you're rooted in a deeper sense of commitment. Ultimately, Stoic contentment emerges when your daily existence isn't hijacked by momentary failures or annoyances, but anchored in something more enduring, your moral or creative mission. Even in adversity, you persist in that mission, discovering that negativity can't easily overshadow the fulfillment of serving a cause greater than fleeting comfort. This elevated perspective ensures your mind stays open to optimism, forging a lasting inner peace that remains viable through all of life's storms. Stopping negative thinking doesn't mean never experiencing pain or setbacks. Rather, Stoic philosophy shows how to engage with adversity through mindful observation, rational reinterpretation, boundary setting, and a dedication to your higher values. By applying these 10 principles, you shift from a victim of negativity to a conscious creator of your own mental environment. If these insights resonate, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue exploring how Stoic wisdom can guide us to a life of calm, purpose, and resilience. Armed with these tools, you can steadily reshape your thoughts, refusing to let hardship define your mindset or hamper your enduring sense of well-being.